My name's Leo, I'm 32, and for most of my adult life, I've been the unofficial ATM of my family. It wasn't always like that. When I was younger, we were a pretty close unit, or at least I thought we were. After my dad passed away when I was 20, I kind of stepped into the role he left behind without even realizing it. My mom, my younger sister Mia, and my uncle Ray, her brother, started leaning on me for everything. At first, it was small, helping with groceries, chipping in for repairs, driving Mia to appointments when her car broke down. It felt natural. Family helps family, right? But as I got older and started building a modest life for myself, I realized they never stopped needing me. Or rather, expecting from me. Rent came up late. I covered it. Mia wanted to go on a weekend trip, but didn't have enough money. I transferred her some fun cash. Uncle Ray had his hours cut. I picked up the tab for his utility bills. My mom. She never asked directly anymore. She just said things like, the landlord's being a pain again, or the fridge is making that noise. Hope it lasts the month. And I'd send money. Every time. I didn't even think about it. Not really. Because it wasn't about the money. It was about being needed. It made me feel useful. Like I was doing something right. Even if my own social life was non-existent and my apartment was the size of a shoebox. Then came that call. It was a Saturday afternoon. One of those cloudy, lazy days when I was cleaning my kitchen while a podcast played in the background. My phone buzzed on the counter. Mom calling. I picked it up, figuring it was another subtle hint about rent. But when I answered, there was no response. Just silence, then some rustling, and then voices. I pulled the phone back, double-checked the screen. Still on the call. I almost hung up, figured it was an accidental dial. But then I heard my name. Oh please, Leo will pay it. He always does. My mom's voice said, laughing lightly. He's too desperate to say no. I froze. Mia chimed in next, her voice sharper, almost gleeful. I told my friend we basically have a walking wallet. He acts all proud of helping, but he'd fall apart if we stopped asking. He needs us to need him. My stomach twisted, but I couldn't move. I just stood there, clutching the phone as their laughter spilled through the speaker. I heard ice clink in a glass. Uncle Ray spoke next. His voice always a little too loud, like he thought everything he said was brilliant. It's sad, really, he chuckled. 30-something, no wife, no kids, no real life. All he's got is us. Poor guy thinks money equals love. I didn't even breathe. My hand shook as I lowered the phone to the counter. I don't remember how long I stood there, listening to them roast me like I was some pathetic sitcom character. Eventually, the call dropped on its own. I sat down at the table, still gripping the edge of my phone. My first instinct was disbelief. Maybe I heard it wrong. Maybe it was out of context. But no, I replayed it in my head, over and over, and there was no denying it. They weren't just mocking me. They knew what they were doing. They knew I was bending over backward to keep them afloat, and instead of being grateful, they were laughing behind my back. The worst part? They were right. I had built my life around being needed by them. Somewhere along the way, I'd convinced myself that being indispensable was the same as being loved. That if I stopped giving, I'd stop matching. I didn't call them out right away. I didn't send a furious text or demand an apology. I just sat with it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing Mia's voice in my head. He needs us to need him. The truth of it stung more than any insult. The next few days were a blur. I went to work, smiled at my coworkers, made small talk, but my brain wouldn't shut up. I kept trying to justify things. They didn't mean it. They were just joking. They're family. But every excuse fell flat under the weight of that call. Then, as if nothing happened, on the third day, I got a text from my mom. Hey sweetheart, rent's due Friday. Can you send the usual? Landlord's being annoying again. Love you. No greeting. No warmth. Just the same cycle, as if the last few days hadn't happened. I stared at that message for a long time. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I could have just sent the money, like always. Pretended I never heard anything. Part of me wanted to. The familiar part. The one that thought love meant giving. But something inside me had cracked. Not snapped in anger. Cracked open like a door finally easing off rusted hinges. A realization had crept in through that space. They didn't love me more because I helped. They loved the help. They loved the money. They loved the convenience of me. Not me. And suddenly, for the first time in years, I didn't feel desperate to say yes. I typed back one word, no. Then I put my phone down and waited. The response didn't take long. Excuse me? Came the reply. I didn't answer. I left it on read. 10 minutes later, another ping. Leo, what's going on? You know we're counting on you. Don't be childish. I still said nothing. That evening, my sister messaged me too. Why are you being weird? If you're mad, just say it. Don't play games. It was almost funny. After years of unquestioned giving, the first no was met with confusion, like I'd broken some silent contract. Like I was the unreasonable one. I went quiet for the rest of the night. No texts. No calls. I let them sit with it. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. Because a few days later, they showed up at my door. It was early evening when I heard the knock. Not the usual gentle tap of a neighbor, but the impatient, hollow thudding of someone who felt entitled to be let in. I glanced through the peephole, and there they were, my mom, Mia, and Uncle Ray, all standing shoulder to shoulder like some disheveled committee. I didn't open the door right away. I just watched them. My mom wore that tight-lipped smile she always used when she was trying to look sweet but felt annoyed. Mia stood with her arms crossed, chewing gum, already rolling her eyes. Ray looked like he'd just rolled out of bed and brought his ego along for the ride. I debated pretending I wasn't home, but something inside me, some exhausted, worn-out part of me, stood up and walked to the lock. I cracked the door open just an inch. Leo, my mom said, her voice sugary. There you are? We were in the neighborhood. You live 40 minutes away, I said, keeping my voice flat. She blinked. Well, we were getting groceries. Thought we'd stop by. Can we come in? I didn't budge. Why? Now Mia stepped forward. Seriously? You're gonna act like this? Because of what? A stupid joke. So you do know I heard it? I said, still not opening the door. Uncle Ray scoffed behind them. Oh, come on, Leo. Don't be dramatic. Families joke around. You think we haven't said worse about each other? That's supposed to make me feel better? Mom sighed, suddenly shifting from sweet to stern. Leo, you're taking this the wrong way. We appreciate everything you've done. We were just joking. That call wasn't meant for you. But it was about me, I said quietly. You laughed about how I always pay your rent. You called me a burden. Said I was desperate. Mia rolled her eyes again. You're twisting everything. It was just a dumb conversation. You seriously gonna throw away your whole family over that? My hand tightened on the edge of the door. You already did that for me. That's when my mom's mask cracked. Her voice dropped, cold and clipped. Fine. You want to play hardball? You think you're some martyr now? After all we've done for you growing up? I felt my chest burn. I never asked you to pay me back. I just wanted to matter to you. And now I know what you think of me when you think I'm not listening. There was silence for a beat. Then Ray chuckled. Man, you really are sensitive. All this over some rent money. That did it. I opened the door all the way and stepped aside, not to let them in, but to show them the packed boxes behind me. My living room looked like it had been hit by a moving crew. Stacked cardboard boxes labeled books, kitchen, bedroom. A disassembled desk leaned against the wall. My lease wasn't up for 3 more months, but I'd already put in notice. Where are you going? My mom asked, trying to mask the panic. I met her eyes. Somewhere new. Somewhere far. Where no one mocks me when I'm not in the room. Where I don't spend my days trying to earn love that should have been unconditional. You're running away? Mia scoffed. Real mature. No, I said. I'm removing myself. I could see the shift in their faces now. My mom's faux innocence hardened into disbelief. Mia's smugness curled into something colder. Ray just stared, as if I'd started speaking a language he couldn't understand. But we need you, Mom said suddenly, almost pleading. You can't just leave. Rent's due. And there it was. Not we miss you. Not we're sorry. Not we'll change. Just, we need your money. That was the moment it really sunk in. I wasn't their son. I was their paycheck with a guilty conscience. I stepped back into the doorway. You'll figure it out, I said. You always told me I was just a burden. Maybe life without me will feel lighter. Mia opened her mouth to say something, but I closed the door before she could. This time I locked it, not out of anger, but out of finality. I sat on the floor beside the boxes, listening as the footsteps faded down the hall. My hands trembled, not from fear or regret, but from the weight of finally choosing me. For the next few days, silence followed. No texts, no calls. I kept expecting some explosion, an apology, maybe, or one of their passive-aggressive guilt trips. But instead, nothing. Then, a week later, I got a letter in the mail. It wasn't handwritten. No envelope. Just a folded paper with 4 words scrawled in the center. You'll regret this, Leo. There was no signature. but I didn't need one. I knew who sent it. I held that paper in my hand for a long time. It was printed from a computer, not written by hand, which somehow made it colder. No warmth, no attempt at conversation, just a threat veiled as a statement. You'll regret this, Leo. No love, Mom. No from your sister. Not even a signature from Uncle Ray, who used to sign text messages with a thumbs-up emoji like it was his trademark. Just those 4 words, like a warning carved into stone. I didn't show anyone. I didn't tell my coworkers or my friends. Not yet, because I wasn't sure what it meant. Part of me wanted to brush it off as a last-ditch effort to guilt me into resuming my old role. Another part, the quieter, more cautious voice I usually ignored, told me to take it seriously. These weren't strangers. These were people who knew where I lived, what hours I worked, the places I frequented. People I'd trusted with every version of myself for years. So I did what I never used to do. I created distance. Physical and digital. I changed the locks. Not because I thought they'd break in, but because I didn't want to sleep with the thought they could. I updated every password, canceled the shared streaming accounts they'd been using for free, and removed myself from the shared family calendar. Yes, that existed. I blocked their numbers, then unblocked them, then blocked them again. I was caught between a storm of second-guessing and a desperate need to finally breathe. But here's the strange part. Once the silence settled in, once the messages stopped and the space between us grew wider, I started hearing the echoes of who I used to be. Like one night, I made pasta. Not because someone asked. Not because I needed to deliver food to my mom or Mia forgot to shop again. Just for me. I lit a candle, ate slowly, took a photo, looked at it, deleted it. I didn't need to prove to anyone that I was okay. I just needed to be okay. But the letter never left my desk. It sat there, folded, quiet, a white flag pretending to be a bomb. And eventually, curiosity got the better of me. I decided to find out where it came from. I flipped it over, looked for postage, but there was none. No stamp, no mailing address. Which meant it hadn't been mailed. It had been dropped off. That made my heart skip. I checked my building's cameras, something I'd never done before. I asked the landlord to let me take a peek, using the excuse that a weird letter showed up, which wasn't technically a lie. He agreed, barely looking up from his phone. The footage showed exactly what I feared. 3 days earlier, right before sunset, a figure in a gray hoodie walked up to the door. Face tilted down, hoodie pulled tight. They didn't buzz in. Didn't need to. Someone else walked out, and they slipped in behind them. Classic move. The person approached my floor, stood outside my unit for less than 10 seconds, slipped something under the door, and left without knocking. The timestamp? 6:42 p.m. That same evening, I'd been in the shower with my music on loud. I never even heard a footstep. I played the video back 3 times. The gate was familiar. Too familiar. Mia. The way she walked, the slight sway in her step. The way she adjusted her ponytail before she turned the corner. She always did that when she was nervous. So it wasn't a threat from a stranger. It was a message from my sister. And somehow, that made it worse. She didn't call. Didn't text. Didn't say, "I'm sorry." She just dropped off a typed sheet of paper like a coward, wrapped in venom and pride, and slinked away before I could open the door. What kind of family operates like that? Mine, I guess. The next morning, I left the letter on the cafe table next to my coffee, staring at it like it might grow teeth and bite. I almost tossed it in the trash. Almost lit it on fire just to feel dramatic. Instead, I pulled out my phone and started typing. To Mia. Subject. About that letter. I stared at the blank message for nearly 20 minutes. My fingers hovered, then stopped. My chest tightened. I wanted to say something. Anything. To shake her, to break through whatever wall she'd built around herself that let her mock me so easily. But every draft I started felt like a return to who I used to be. So I deleted the email. I put my phone down. I grabbed my coffee and walked out, leaving the letter behind on the table like a ghost I was done carrying. But that didn't mean I was safe. Because the next week, my paycheck hit my account, except it was short. By a lot. Confused, I logged into my bank account. Looked at the transaction history. Everything looked normal until I spotted a transfer I didn't recognize. $1,250 sent to an account ending in numbers I didn't recognize. Except I did recognize it. It was Mia's account, the one I used to send her money to. The same account I deleted from my favorites weeks ago. The transaction had been scheduled automatically, from a setting I forgot even existed. Scheduled monthly. Quiet. Hidden in a section I hadn't thought to check. Set to repeat every 15th. The last one I hadn't canceled. I stared at the screen, my hands ice cold. It wasn't over. Not even close. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying everything. The call I wasn't meant to hear, the letter shoved under my door, and now this. A chunk of my hard-earned money silently funneled out of my account by someone who used to call me her favorite person when she wanted a new phone. It wasn't even the money that stung the most. It was the intent behind it, the quiet, calculated assumption that I was still too weak to notice. Or worse, too spineless to stop it. At 2:34 a.m., I sat in the glow of my laptop, digging through every bank setting I could find. The automatic transfer had been scheduled months ago, during a stretch when I was working overtime and juggling 2 side gigs just to stay afloat. It had somehow gotten buried under all the chaos. I canceled it immediately. I stared at the confirmation screen for a long while, then clicked through my statements to see how many payments had already gone out under my nose. 7 monthly payments of $1,250, all going straight to Mia's account. No questions asked, no thank you. Not even a joke about paying me back. $8,750. Just gone. I felt stupid. I hated how stupid I felt. Like I'd been sleepwalking through my own life, while my family used my wallet like a shared resource. I used to laugh at stories like mine. Stories where the protagonist lets everyone walk over them while believing it's love. I used to say, that could never be me. And yet here I was. By morning, I knew what I had to do. But I also knew I couldn't go in swinging. I tried the quiet exit. I tried no contact. I'd even tried passive resistance. None of it made a dent. These people didn't respond to distance. They responded to leverage. So I got some. First, I pulled every receipt, every bank statement, every text message requesting money, every transaction tied to Mia, my mom, or Uncle Ray. I highlighted the dates, labeled the requests, and tallied up the totals. Then I went through every group text, every backhanded thank you I'd ever received that admitted who the money came from and why. By the end of the week, I had a 12-page document, cold, factual, detailed. Then I went a step further. I called a lawyer. Not to sue, not to press charges, but to make sure what I was about to do wouldn't come back to bite me. The lawyer was a kind, quiet man in his 50s with sharp eyes and a calming presence. He read through everything while I sat in his office, trying not to fidget. When he finally looked up, he said, legally, you're in the clear. You gave the money voluntarily, but since that last transfer was automatic and unauthorized by you at the time, you have grounds to demand it back. You likely won't get the full amount unless you take legal action. But I don't think that's why you came here. He was right. I didn't want a courtroom. I didn't want headlines. I wanted a reckoning. Something they couldn't laugh off. Something they'd remember. And I knew exactly how to deliver it. My mom's birthday was coming up. She always hosted a family dinner. Small, casual, but sacred. Anyone who didn't show up was immediately labeled ungrateful or too busy for family. I hadn't RSVP'd. I knew they expected me to cave at the last minute like I always did. This year, I showed up early. I brought a black tote bag and a calm smile. My mom greeted me at the door like nothing had happened. Her hug was awkward, stiff, performative. I'm glad you came, she said. I was worried you were still sulking. I didn't respond. I just smiled and walked inside. Mia was in the kitchen, pouring wine. She glanced at me and smirked. Look who decided to grow up. I said nothing. Uncle Ray gave me a mock salute from the couch. Our golden goose returns. I smiled at him too. Dinner started the same as always. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, cheap wine, and even cheaper conversation. They laughed. They gossiped. They nudged me with jokes and half-hearted compliments, trying to pretend things were normal again. Halfway through dessert, I reached into my tote bag. I brought something, I said. They turned. I pulled out 3 envelopes and slid them across the table, one to each of them. My mom squinted at hers. What's this? Read it, I said. She opened the envelope and pulled out the first 2 pages. Her smile faded almost immediately. Mia stopped chewing. Ray's expression turned from confused to defensive in seconds. These are, my mom started. Records, I said, calm as ever. Itemized. Every dollar I've given you over the last 5 years. With timestamps, request texts, and bank confirmations. Why would you do this? Mia snapped. Because you said I was desperate to be needed, I said. So I wanted to see how much that desperation cost me. Uncle Ray slammed his envelope shut. This is out of line, Leo. No, I said. What's out of line is stealing from someone who loved you enough to believe you every single time you cried help. What's out of line is mocking me behind my back while cashing the checks I worked for. What's out of line is typing out a threat and sliding it under my door like cowards. My mom's mouth parted, but no words came out. I canceled the transfers. All of them. I continued. The bank is investigating the last one, and if I decide to press the issue, it could become a fraud case. I haven't decided yet. Mia stood up. You wouldn't. Try me. She stared at me, her jaw tight. I'm not doing this because I want your money, I said. I'm doing this because I want you to understand that I'm not yours to use anymore. I was never the weak one. I was just the only one who cared enough to keep giving. That stops tonight. You're seriously just cutting us off, my mom whispered, her voice small now. No, I said. I'm setting boundaries. What you choose to do with that is up to you. And then, for the first time in my life, I stood up from that table before anyone finished eating. I walked to the door, picked up my tote bag, and let myself out. I didn't look back. That night, my phone buzzed with message after message. First angry, then apologetic, then angry again. I didn't answer a single one. Eventually, the noise stopped. It's been 3 months. I moved to a new place. Smaller town, slower pace. I got promoted recently, started volunteering at a local community center, and even joined a weekend hiking group. I don't check my old messages anymore. I don't need to. Last week, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten this time. From my mom. It was short. We didn't realize how much we took until you were gone. I'm sorry. For everything. I hope one day you'll come back. Not because we need you, but because we finally deserve you. I read it once. Then I tucked it away. Because forgiveness takes time. And for the first time in my life, I'm not in a rush.